Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sirs and madams, other members of the British gentry and whatnot, honorable, normal, and subpar members of the Historical Society, I'm here today to show why the single life is really the way to go. And I'm going to do this in a sort of unorganized speech that will, like many hist and Phil debates, will add nothing productive to a conversation in 7 minutes. We know what's going on over here. So I think you guys have gotten the joke, and let me first sort of discuss, as I waste as much time as I possibly can, why I'm wearing a tuxedo tonight. Nobody else, as you might notice, decided to wear what I was told was casual. And what is this, UCD? I mean, this is Trinity. This is our casual, I thought. I mean, it's not coattails. That would be a formal occasion. And in fact, I'm in some ways offended that we have so much academic nudity going on, and the only person who's followed this, I'm not getting any social capital. Well, I am maybe getting some social capital. So anyway,
Some information.
Go ahead.
This is not an academic road.
That's checkmate, guys. Fantastic. Okay. Well, there's other reasons. Let's see. I've been able to successfully waste a good amount of time on this topic. So in that way, this has been a beneficial use of my time wearing this tuxedo. What else did I write down? I actually prepared for this. Yeah, well, that's that. I think I've wasted enough time. So let me get on to some of the substantive of this debate, if you will. And what I think is going to happen is I'm going to give a few points, and I'll take POIs as they're required. But anyway, let me get into it. So, freedom. As we've discussed at length, my main character trait is that I'm an American. Thank you. I worked hard for that. Americans really care a lot about our freedom, right? We really care about things like freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly. We even have the freedom of petition, but we don't really care about that. Don't use that one that much. And we have all sorts of other freedoms that, kind of get us in trouble, like, freedom from protection from all sorts of things like, preventable disease and things like that. Really, a shot for a preventable disease is pretty much the hardest shot you can get in America. Anyway, so how does this connect to what we're talking about tonight? I think fundamentally, when you're in a relationship, surely that limits your freedom in some ways, right? You have another person that you're sort of tied to, and maybe they want to do things that you don't want to do, and this will cause conflict and make you unhappy, and I think that's an important impact in this debate. And as we know, impacts are important, guys. Anyway, so we kind of understand that, and I think that's an important point, but overall it wasn't as interesting, so let's move on. I think what this debate's really going to be about a lot is sex. Because fundamentally, that's everyone's favorite topic, whether they tell you or not. So basically, I think if we're living a single life, there's basically two options when it comes to sex. There's celibacy.
Here.
Very popular in the Historical Society. And also polyamory, or just, that sort of thing. Or a modern form of it, if you know what I mean, a postmodern. You know what, this is for Pablo Gracia to explain tomorrow. Anyway, so on celibacy, we'll start with that. I think there's lots of benefits to celibacy. Certainly, institutions that have taken on celibacy as a role have seen great benefits. For example, in the Catholic Church, all people must be celibate, and as we've seen, there have been no negative consequences of this. Anyway, let's move on quickly. Also, without sex, you can't have children. At least I think that's how it works. And children, at the moment, are causing kind of a problem because we have a sort of an environment. This concept has become more popular over the last few years. However, in my home continent, there's still some questions about it. But that's all right. We don't need to get too political here. Anyway, basically, without kids, you get a lot of benefits. People can do things like live in the Middle East. You know, go to school in the Maldives without scuba diving equipment. And a variety of other aspects. It's gotten too serious, guys. I shouldn't have brought up the end of humanity. Well, you know, live and let learn, you know what I mean? Anyway, so now I'm coming to sort of the end of my speech, apparently, which I think we all take with a great amount of satisfaction. Anyway, so I was going to talk a little bit more about polyamorous relationships. You know, for example, I know that is a hard word for me to say, but when it comes down to it, there's many animals in the animal kingdom that live in polyamorous societies. For example, the elephant seal, the gorilla, the red-winged warbler, the former Hist committee, and of course, the closest of these to human beings is the bonobos. And they have many benefits in their societies. So anyway, I've sort of run out of time here. There we go. So with that, I think I've really shown that the single life's the way to go. If you don't believe me, well, you're wrong. It's that simple. Thanks, guys.
So I've been asked to announce by Catherine that there is a hashtag called Horny Histies, and if you do the hashtag Horny Histies, when the tweets will be read in between speeches, or you can message Catherine Potter as well.
I'd like to thank Liam for that fine speech, and I call upon Sean Gordon Dublin to open the case for the opposition.
I'd first like to thank the House for the opportunity to speak, and I'm going to start off my speech with an analogy. An analogy. My English teacher is very big into military analogies and used to say, when it comes to essays, dig deep, not wide. This may work for essays and for trenches, but much like the Blitzkrieg, I plan on carpet bombing the proposition with such a spectrum of absolute zingers as to totally demoralize them. Now, during Freshers Week, I went out 13 nights in a row. During Refreshers Week, I went out 11 nights in a row. In fact, last night at 7 o'clock, I was offered a ticket to the Phil Ball. Within half an hour, I was wearing a suit and had 8 cans in my hands. This, however, does not make me cool. This does not make me a lad. This does not make me a hard man. This is pathetic. Because of a fear of missing out, you go to things you don't really want to go to because you fear loneliness and death. How many friend of a friend's lame house parties have you gone to because you thought there was an off chance that you might meet someone cool? A couple of hundred, maybe? Maybe that's just me, I'm not sure. But how's that worked out for you? Here's the thing. Being single is just comparatively shit. People will say that you don't need someone to complete you. They'll say it's unhealthy to think that you need someone else. You know what I say to that? Guaranteed all the people who say this are either in relationships and have forgotten how miserable they used to be, or they're single and miserable and determined to justify to themselves by attempting to appear as a pillar of strength and independence that they're doing all right. Anyway, you ever get attracted to somebody and you just know it's not going to work out because your personalities don't quite click? That's my case in point, really. I can see you don't quite get it, so I'm going to explain a little bit more. We can recognize when people have qualities that complement our own, often enhancing, supplementing, or in some cases, standing in for what we sorely lack. Alcoholic. Doubtless, the proposition will accuse me of conforming to societal norms, Pablo Gracia, and forcing a non-existent, cookie-cutter way of life on others. Here's the thing. Pay attention. There is no such thing as a virgin conception, but every good rule has a notable exception. What I am saying is, there are some people who are so used to and so comfortable in their own company they don't feel the need to have somebody else. And God bless you, you poor, poor sods. You're really missing out. But also, respect for being able to live in your own heads. It's not like you'll have to do it forever until you die alone. Now, at some stage, all your friends will be partnered up and you'll really start to feel the third wheel effect. At friend meetups, you'll start noticing that you're getting less and less invites. And God help you when your friends start having kids and only see you once in a blue moon and they say, "Oh, you must have so much time, I'm so jealous." And you look at your empty calendar and the 2 bottles of wine you're going to smash this weekend while watching Netflix. At the end of the day, being single is humiliating and shameful. And you will be shamed. In Denmark, for example, if you're still single between the ages of 25 and 30 on your birthday, they will shame you by throwing spices on you. Nobody here really seems to fit that age demographic. You're lucky. Now, not only is that annoying in itself, your aunt is going to be constantly asking you when you're going to settle down, and that's just friggin' annoying. Now, by the way, there's nothing darker than sitting at the singles table at a wedding. Nothing darker in life, my friends. Now, when you're single, there's an absence of passion. Your highs aren't as high, your lows aren't as low, and things are just remarkably dull. A relationship makes things exciting, plus you get sex. And sex is great. You should really try it sometime. It is a lot of fun, I promise. I mean, like, shagging on the kitchen counter, shagging on the kitchen floor, shagging on the kitchen table. This girl had a kitchen fetish, I'm starting to think. Not the point. Because when you're single, no one is required to care about your crappy day and listening to your boring story about getting stuck in line at the SU shop. All of your little grievances have to be kept inside. Help me. You can try calling your friend and being like, "You will never guess what has just happened. I asked for skim with my mocha and they gave me full fat milk." And your friend would probably respond with something along the lines of, "Oh, bummer, be right back. Gotta take a hit out of this bong so I can pretend I give a shit." Dude, that's like totally not cool. That sounded a lot like Nicolas Cage, actually. Look. Thank you. Now, but what's great about relationships is that your boyfriend or girlfriend has to care. It's part of the deal. You give them orgasms. Well, some of us can give them orgasms. And then you get to tell them stories that really don't go anywhere. Now, the worst part about being single is that you have to date, which is a cruel and exhausting process. There are 2 kinds of people on Tinder, the desperate and the piss takers. I'll let you all figure out which ones you are. But neither the desperate nor the piss takers will give you an enjoyable single life. You'll meet strangers in dimly lit bars to decide whether or not you eventually want them to see you eating Nutella out of the jar in your underwear, or vomiting after a bad day in an exam. Some people are really anxious. Most of them you only end up wanting to see naked for about an hour and then never again. And God forbid they Snapchat you the next morning trying to start a conversation. Why did I give her my Snapchat? Anyway, I could have used this speech to sell myself and hopefully make some people here think, ooh, he's a bit of all right, ain't he? But I didn't, because when you're single, like I am, big surprise, you don't have anyone to call you out on your bullshit, so you never really evolve emotionally. And you end up writing whiny lists about being single like I've done for this debate. With that, I'd like to thank the House for the opportunity to abuse the singletons begged to oppose.
I'd like to thank Sean for that fine speech and call upon Lady Crowley to continue the case for the proposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, HIST committee members, freshers boyfriends, shit, Kevin, I called you out twice there, I'm so sorry. I knew I would get confused by this. I actually even made a Venn diagram to help me, if you guys want to see it. I'm no Maggie Larson though, when it comes to mathematics, but you're gonna want to see this bad boy. Take a look. Professional. Everyone take a look. HIST committee members in this circle, freshers' boyfriends in this circle, and in this little expertly highlighted intersection, Kevin Hamill. You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RNL Freshers Takeover Chamber debate, which is going to be the best damn HIS debate that this year has seen. We've got all the ingredients. We've got all the ingredients for a recipe for debating fun here in this room, ladies and gentlemen. Gabby has taken a break from her thespian lifestyle of memorizing the alphabet in preparation for her improv show. To be here with us tonight, Sean, our resident Halls poster boy, is here with his ultra chill, I'm a vegan, not a vegetarian look, and we're all here for it. Ellen's here, who has commuted 50 hours from Laois and is probably sleeping in the G&B tonight, we'll see later on. Liam showed up in a big fuck-off suit, and we're all here for it again. And Jack is adorned in his amazing gold jewellery, but you already know that because he's been going around showing it to people for the entire evening. Amazing. Oz is here and he's not singing karaoke, and it's kind of upsetting, but we'll move on, it's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, the big question here today is, should we stay single for the rest of our lives by choice? Not that a lot of us have a choice in it. To win this debate, the fine members of the opposition must prove that romantic relationships offer something beneficial to an individual that other relationships, familial, friends, that powerful bond one shares with one's goldfish, can't. Not only that, they must prove that romantic relationships aren't inherently damaging to both the individual and society on a vast number of levels that I will highlight in my speech. I may have taken this too seriously, but it's okay. The opposition, ladies and gentlemen, is every sappy romantic comedy, every dreary Adele love song, but us in the prop, we're Beyonce's single ladies, bitch. Now, you tell me who's already winning this debate. Here. Flicks hair. I have that in asterisk, sorry. Why should we stay single, ladies and gentlemen? Why should we as an individual make an active decision to abort that universal journey to find the one? Because love is ridiculous. In modern society, love is ballooned up to be this unrealistic and ultimately damaging concept, has been caked in layers of quixotic expectation and warped into a romanticized version of itself by popular media. Television, movies, YA novels that you still reread ironically while telling yourself that you aren't absolutely adoring the Edward, Bella, Jacob triangle, and that you wrote a fan fiction on when you were 13. Relatable. That's definitely hypothetical, swear. This agonizing pursuit for something that we can't possibly understand or see accurately through our rose-tinted, love heart-shaped glasses leads to one devastating outcome, ladies and gentlemen: disappointment. Aww. Thank you. I've spent 18 years wiping the tears of my heartbroken friends after their fling from a night out fell apart. I myself believe I have a connection on a deeper level with a boy who catches my eye when we're walking onto a train or listens to the same music as me. It's all bullshit. In a completely not bitter way, it's all bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. Every social event, every conversation between young people like us first years in our prime is charged with this invisible attraction, clogged with unspoken questions and the exchange of judgment. Because whether you like to admit it or not, if you're like the lovey-dovey opposition and the rest of the entire population, and you want to engage in this dating dance to find your life partner, then you are always subconsciously on that quest, looking for your other half. It's a lot of pressure to put on other people and on yourself. Because when you enter a relationship with this expectation in your head embedded by popular culture, you will be disappointed in the experience, the other person, and worst of all, yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Why can't I find a boyfriend or girlfriend? What's wrong with me that people don't like me? This kind of self-destructive attitude was heightened just last Thursday on Valentine's Day, during which every year there is a culture of loneliness and a sense of missing out, wrapped around the happy-go-lucky, look at us, we're in love, warm, gooey center of the holiday. And we're not here for it, ladies and gentlemen. In the props single Pringles world, however, we got out all of that potential for heartbreak out of our lives by simply just not searching for our Romeo or Juliet, not making ourselves vulnerable by giving someone else the power to hurt us and make us doubt our self-worth for one moment. Relationships are harmful because society tells us that we must partake in that madness, so we rush into the dating scene before we can even think about ourselves. We say yes to the boy in our drama class who proposes when we're 7 after a month-long affair, during which I'd hold his hand. Sorry, this is hypothetical. We'd hold his hand. We'd hold his hand in the downstairs of the Little Duke theatre bathrooms, and then when he says, "Will you marry?" in his squeaky little voice, we look back at him in his Harry Potter glasses and think, "I don't want to marry this wannabe, but what if no one else ever wants to marry me again, and I don't get the wedding and the white cake and the fucking walk down the aisle?" Ladies and gentlemen, this is another completely hypothetical situation, but also we're going to say yes on the single side. I realize that I'm making generalizations here, and I'm sure there are smarter people here who are not who unlike me are able to navigate romance and didn't rush into things and has found the love of their life. But even that type of person is swept up in the promise of a happily ever after. That's just intrinsically part of our culture that perpetuates its way into our lives. Over here in Singletown, however, we say fuck that. By making the decision to reject the culture, we have an opportunity to work on ourselves. Yes, the self-love speech. Get ready. The most important and longest-lasting relationship you'll ever experience is the one with yourself. So love yourself like you'd love Prince Charming. Take yourself out to dinner and a movie. You'll always get to see what you want to see. And you actually might enjoy yourself. Channel all that love and respect you have for other people into yourself and treat yourself well. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're focused on the pursuit of a relationship and then the relationship itself, you have very little energy to work on yourself. And anything that can threaten your positive inner monologue is not worth it. So we say no to the opposition's proclamation that being in a relationship is good. Life as a single person is enriching and fulfilling, no matter what you say. Again, it's not bitter or sad, it's good. Friendships offer you social companionship, adoption's possible, and children never have to worry about their parents breaking up because they don't have two parents. And we think that's sorry, single moms, single dads, that's a good, I think that's a good thing. And you don't have to worry about feelings and all of this. And it's all sounding pretty fucking spectacular to me, ladies and gentlemen. So I would encourage everyone to come and join the proposition on the Singletown Life. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the House for allowing me to speak tonight. I don't have much experience with debating, never done it before, but I hope that my skills are somewhat comparable to the rest of the speakers here tonight. Seeing as this isn't the field, that shouldn't be too much difficulty. Okay, right. So as a student of physics, my exposure to women is in general theoretical at best. However, I am one of the lucky few to successfully be clinging to a girlfriend at present, instead of just making creepy, anonymous advances for them on Tinder. From my high pedestal, the single life isn't everything it's cracked up to be. I can still remember the dark days of my own dismal single life. On the surface, it was quite a mythical time of incorrigible inconsequence, infrequent showering, and frankly, invalid serving suggestions. Yet suppressed deep down lay an abject horror so visceral it made my secondary school bleep tests seem like a wonderful way to split up a double maths on a Monday morning. The looming dread of upcoming family reunions plagued my stream of consciousness, solely punctuated by the passive-aggressive "Are you still there?" prompts from Netflix. I treated each family dinner as an intricate minefield of how to explain my romantic inactivity without building further my parents' case that I was most definitely, certainly gay. The swirling of existential anxiety loomed larger than an overdue library book notice from Trinity Library. Thankfully, however, I've moved on from this woeful existence, and I hope to convince you this evening that although the single life might sound appealingly simple at first, much like building a children's hospital in Ireland, not all things are as simple as they may seem. I grant you, it's tough out there on the dating scene, especially down in the hormonal stew that is the Hamilton. Some of the male-to-female ratios down there can feel like trying to cram into the bulging orifices of the Lewis during a rush hour. The concept of emotionally opening up to another individual is a scary pursuit. It can be easy to turtle up and embrace the loose club-hopping single life. But for those of us who actually need our personality to do some heavy lifting for us, it's not that quite easy. Pursuing a relationship inherently harbours a list of dangers. What if I'm simply not enough? What if, after years of dating, it comes out that your significant other likes pineapple on pizza? What if... No. What if they finally realise that I only use big words to compensate for my own characteristic, cerebral, idiosyncratic inadequacies? What if one day some best student crawls out from the dilapidated woodwork of the PAV and with their alluring stench of employability mixed with their excessive application of Pacaruban 1 million just steals them right out from under my tenuous grasp at best? This can happen. There is no denying love's fragility. Much like making an appointment with a student counselling service, relationships take a long, long time to build, and they're over in the blink of an eye, making you feel like the 4 months wait wasn't quite worth it. The genuine enjoyment of someone else's intimate company, no matter how short, pales in comparison to those long nights rewatching the same Netflix show for the 4th time that year. At the end of the day, those swan pedal boats are designed for 2 people, and no matter how hard you pedal, the depressing, inevitable rescue operation only gets worse. The best things in life comes in pairs. When is the last time you've seen someone walk around with a single AirPod in? They have to fully show off that lovely tuition money Trinity forgot to collect. Or how about the pairing of Trinity Ball with the Trinitones? Another classic combo right there. Or how about what if you desperately need information to solve an oh-so-common mid-semester university crisis? Do you think it only takes one single trip to the academic registry to get a satisfactory answer to your question? And who knows, maybe in your repeat visits, something might spark between you and one of the feisty ladies, or gentlemen, working away tirelessly for the good of students. It is clear that the unit, the couple, is essential. This issue is not bound to the petty confines of our little university world. It stretches far, far beyond the dominion of the provost. Take a glance at Brad Pitt, for example. When's the last time he's seen his kids? Speaking of Hollywood, you look me dead in the eyes and tell me a solo Jedward career would be a good idea. Between Dustin the Turkey and our recent brush with the mumps, Ireland has its hands full of global embarrassment at the moment, thank you very much. Now, a complaint I often hear that attempts to justify the single life, well, it's an expensive venture in many ways. Of course you have to buy gifts, and the odd bouquet of flowers for the rare occasion Google Calendar actually reminds you of an important date. I won't name names, but I swear I put Valentine's Day into the phone, just didn't notify me. But in addition to the financial burden of love, you have to actually pay attention to your significant other, and when they're expressing their inner thoughts and feelings. Now, I'm a busy guy, and those Instagram posts from people I pretend to care about won't like themselves. This is difficult for me. However, allow me to refrain my perspective, perhaps. Sure, you can look at it from the cold, pragmatic eyes of a Hamilton physics student like myself, and trust me, to justify my academic choices I often do, but try to look at it through the warm heart of, say, a hedge fund investor. It's an investment. It is those cold nights when maintenance decide to disconnect the gas from your house in Trinity Halls without giving you notice first, and your life-size anime body pillow just isn't giving off the heat it used to, when the reality of being single truly rears its ugly head. It's times like this when the dividend of relationship blossoms. The cost of emotional vulnerability is a small price to pay to be comforted by someone special. Sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't. Like Trinity College and students' money, some relationships stand the test of time. Some seemingly solid relationships can end on a whim. For example, all it took to rip the EU and the UK apart was a big red bus. But that shouldn't dissuade you from trying. It's a process. From each failed relationship, you learn more about what makes you happy. You can share your doubts, fears, insecurities with a person and grapple with them together. It's a change in our increasingly ecocentric world to momentarily put someone else's welfare above your own. Go see Love Actually with your partner, even though you really want to punch Hugh Grant in his quite frankly unfair level of dashiness. Because everyone struggles in life, and having someone close, someone you can confide in, someone who can brace your lacking virtues with nothing but their existence and heart is someone certainly worth keeping. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our and call upon Earl Moss to close the case for the proposition.
Oh, that was close, isn't it? Okay. So, good evening, members of the HIST and other people. So, first thing I want to touch on is, you know, in debating, when you have to debate on a side that you're really just not comfortable with, you're put on a side that you're just like, I completely disagree with it, and you go up and you stand up and like, right, I'm going to have to bullshit that. Well, the advocate for what I have just said is Sean Gordon-Dalton. I think we all need to just remember that when we consider his speech. That's a very important point. Now, it is really clear to me that I have stepped away from the STEM buildings because the first thing that I think of when I think of relationships is who has got the time. Honestly, that is just not for me. I would prefer to be in my bed sleeping or going out or going dancing or going to the HIST or whatever. I have no time for these relationships proposed on the opposition side. So basically what I'm going to do is I don't really have points as Maeve had, but I'm just going to complain a lot about relationships, and I think there's a lot of people in here that's going to agree with me. So, first thing, I don't have the time, and let's kind of go back into that for a second. I really just don't. And I want to do... I have so many things that I have to do, and then there's so many things that I want to do. And all of these things would be prevented if I had a boyfriend. I mean, let's think about when you're in your third year and you're going to go on Erasmus and you're going to meet some fabulous Australian lads or whatever it is you're going to be doing over there. But if you have a boyfriend, you might be stopped from going over there. You might just decide, oh no, I can't leave them, or they'll get really upset, or what if they cheat on me, or what if they do this or that, or anything. And maybe you decide after your degree, actually, I want to work in America because, I don't know, maybe you share the same views as Donald Trump, in which case off you go. In that case, you know, you don't want to leave your significant other, okay? You're kind of tied to them. And that's just not something that I need right now. I want to do other things. I want to be with other people. I don't have time for the one person, one place, one time type of thing. Another point that I want to discuss is, you know, just touch on what Maeve said. I think Maeve had a really important point. You have to live for yourself. And the opposition was saying, you know, you've someone there to be your counselor and everything, and someone there to like be there for you and everything. Suck it up. You have your friends, you have your family. I mean, you have a night out, which, you know, a lot can happen after a night out, but it doesn't mean it has to exist in a relationship. Another thing, the opposition said multiple times that, you know, single life doesn't have any excitement in it. Well, I just don't think the opposition are very successful on nights out then. Is there anything more exciting? Okay, let's say you're in a relationship, fair enough. Okay. Let's say you're in a relationship, okay, fair enough. You think, okay, I might go on a night out, I might go for, I don't know, a few hours, and then I'm going to meet up with my significant other and everything, and that's all fine. But is there anything more exciting than when you're out and you're dancing in a club and you catch the eye of someone and you're like, oof, are they interested? Are they not? And then maybe you do and maybe you don't. Yeah, sure.
They're never interested.
Maybe from your experience? So,
Point of clarification. What is your experience?
All right. well, actually, I'll talk about, not that section of my experience, but I'll talk about some funny things to do with the single life, okay? Because, the single life provides a lot of funny moments that relationships just can't quite offer, okay? So let's put an anecdote into the situation, shall we? So, well, let's say I had something going on with a certain person at some stage, and then, nothing was happening, but we went to pre-drinks, and then we decided to go out, and I had decided to find a random person. Said person then, the previous person, came up, tapped on my shoulder while I was with the other person, and passive-aggressively screamed, "Peekaboo," and then ran away. A little bit of PTSD, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, obviously that was really awkward in the moment, but it's a funny thing to laugh about afterwards. And when you're in a relationship, you don't have those times. Another thing you don't have another thing you don't have when you're single is psycho exes. And we all have memories of psycho exes. Okay, memories of people that will not stop messaging you, that will not stop calling you, that will not stop obsessing over you. We don't want psycho exes. The solution to not having any psycho exes is don't get in a relationship for there to be an ex. Simple as. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't still have fun. You can live the celibate life, as Liam suggested, or you can kind of go the single Pringle, which I don't really think is, it's whatever people think. I don't really think it's desperation, but I feel like, it's your own opinion. It's very, subjective with that sense. But anyway, there's multiple different options, multiple different things that you can do, exciting or whatnot. Let's see any other things about the bad things about being in a relationship. So what about your own self-confidence? Okay, so let's say you're in a bad relationship with someone who doesn't compliment you, who doesn't really understand you, doesn't really listen to what you want. So basically you're just kind of living your life to do what they want you to do. That's another thing I want to say. So with me, I want to go away, I want to go dancing, I want to do all these different things, and I want to mature as my own person as opposed to the person that he wants me to be, which I think is very valid. As well as that, I can't afford to be in a relationship. I just can't. Because in a relationship, the things you do is get takeaway, go for dinner, go to the cinema, go bowling, go on a trip. All of these things cost money. Yes? So can you repeat it just a little bit slower? This is 2019. Equality all the way.
On that, sex is free. Sex is free.
Oh, yeah, but that adheres to the single Pringle life as opposed to the relationship. Anyways, moving on. So, another thing to do with, relationships that just isn't beneficial. Breakups. Breakups are terrible. No one likes breakups. And, you think like, oh, maybe you just shouldn't break up then. But if you're in a terrible relationship, you should break up. Breakups are terrible. You're crying, you're sad, you can't go to college, you can't get out of bed. You eat a lot of food, like a lot of food. And, then you're just even in worse shape for the next person you're trying to get. So I just think single, as a whole, is the way to be. Thank you.
I would like to thank Claire for that fine speech and call upon Carol to close the case for the opposition.
Thank you. So in my rightfully attributed South Dublin nasal tone that Gabby so eloquently described, I'm going to match Ellen's audience participation gimmick with a bit of my own audience participation. So could all the single people in the room please raise their hands for me? Come on, don't be shy, I've all seen you. Yeah, come on. Well, I'm not. I'm actually in a great relationship. You single people should try it. Just get in a relationship because, like me and my girlfriend, we're one of those couples that, that have it all. Love, friendship, happiness. We're one of those couples that you really just love to hang out with, especially if you're single, because you just sort of see
how good being in a relationship can be. And with that in mind, we like to bring out our single friends for drinks, one at a time, as often as we can.
Fine.
Yeah, go on.
Did you follow Gabby's steps to get there?
I wrote the WikiHow article.
I'm going to get a boyfriend.
It's 2019! No, I'm kidding. I know it's not that easy to get in a relationship, as Sean readily admitted. And I readily acknowledge that there's a vast number of relationships are not healthy or not enjoyable. And when either participant feels like it, they should end the relationship and enter the single realm that the proposition so wholeheartedly advocate once again. But I believe that at the end of this debate, the two states of affairs over which we should be arguing are the single life versus that of a happy relationship. Why? Because the world of romance is a board game. And depending on your sexual preferences, that game could be called Connect 4. Don't Wake Daddy. Risk. Hungry, Hungry Hippos. Or my personal favorite, Half-Minute Hero. Members of the HIST, is it a game you want to keep playing, or is it a game you want to win? Should your goal be to remain perpetually single until you're 94, or at the end of that long, grueling road of dating and one-night stands or whatever happens, do you want to end up in your ideal relationship? Because if so, you're acknowledging that the single life is a means rather than the end. And despite how enjoyable that means can often be, as Claire alluded to, the burden upon the opposition tonight has been to prove that the single life, it should be the end goal in and of itself, rather than ending up in the image of your ideal relationship. So why should we aim for our ideal relationship, as opposed to being eternally single? Well, to begin with, let's do some simple maths, okay? As Sean said again, sex is a key part of the majority of relationships. And a study of an American male's Tinder profile, so let's face it, it was probably Liam Brady, It found that out of 53 matches, only 38 actually replied to Liam, and only 4 people went on dates with him. Then statistically, because 10% of first date encounters lead to further dates, and because the third date is the average time where people first have sex, that means that out of 53 solicited advances, only 0.008% of them ended in sex. Meanwhile, in a relationship, you already know the person likes you, and you know that you're not catfishing them. And so even though, obviously, both of the members of the relationship won't always be up for sex all the time, time-wise and money-wise, as that point of information said, your return on investment is still going to be way higher than the effort of being single.
I like those maths.
I do arts. But the relationships aren't all about sex, which leads me to my second point, which is, who the fuck cuddles you when you're single? Like, I'm sorry, it's not an ultra-masculine question to ask, but seriously, I've yet to find a couple who don't find the sort of cuddle comfort vibe to be a key part of their relationship. To cuddle and to be cuddled is an essential human need. And sure, for the first few years of your life, your mum might cuddle you, but apparently, after growing facial hair, it's creepy and weird. And get off me during Fair City, Cathal. So then what follows? Being thrown out into the cuddleless void that is the single life. Because tonight the proposition have been happy to talk about all the joyous and exciting moments that the single life supposedly brings, but what about the sad moments? When you mess up and it feels as if the entire world is against you and you just want to sit in the shower eating a family-sized tub of Ben & Jerry's.
Yes.
In a relationship, the other person will sit beside you because it's 2019, pay for your damn Ben & Jerry's and join in. Because when you're in a relationship, they don't care. They will eat ice cream alongside you, and because you're in a relationship, the extra weight you put on by shoveling down 5 litres of ice cream down your gullet won't have as much of an impact on your sex life. And now for some rebuttal. Maeve, I accept your challenge that something beneficial has to be proven that you can only get in a romantic relationship. So, single boys,
you learn about the anatomy of the other person. For example, did you know that the female sex organ changes color for 3 months out of the year? Interesting, right? Now, that's not...
Which organ? Say it.
The vagina. Now, that's not true. But you thought it might be. You thought it might have been for a second. And that's the problem. Maeve, you learn stuff. And now, Ellen, quickly. The great Hugh Alida once said to me, and actually he's not here tonight, so the whole social capital, Pablo Gracia, of saying that, like name dropping him doesn't really work, but he once told me that you don't attack people's examples in debate. So I'm sorry, but Joey and Rachel were never going to end up together in Friends. I'm sorry. Sit back down. Okay. The only reason that they were put it together was because season 8, NBC executives needed to fill out the space so that they got Ross and Rachel were made for each other. My point stands. I will not say a point of information. And that's my final point, which I'm sure you're really gasping for at this point. The main allure of the single life is that it promises to be exciting, which Claire alluded to, but from that peekaboo story, I'm pretty sure she's just shifting 10-year-old boys. But here's why, as I said before, I have a minute left, so stop laughing. But here's why viewing the single life as a means rather than an end is so much more exciting. Because romance is like Netflix, a streaming service that has been alluded to way too many times tonight. Netflix, it is often used by people as an excuse to ride. But when you're choosing shows on Netflix, do you want to watch 50 first episodes of 50 different shows? Or do you want to watch 50 episodes of that one really good show? That one that'll give you ups and downs, the ones that you will feel satisfied at the end, because realistically, most one-night stands do not leave you satisfied, because the people that you grow in relationships become like those Netflix characters. You get a big, deeper involvement with people, and at the end of the game, I will shut up, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a simple question. Do you want to keep playing the board game, or do you want to win? Thank you very much.